everyone, and welcome back to Practically Zero Waste, a podcast about making zero waste living as practical as possible. My mom has been an eco-minded teacher for the past 30 years of her life. For the past 3 years, she has been in charge of the Eco School portfolio for St. Paul's Elementary in Norwood, Ontario. Everything from composting and energy conservation to educating the next generation of Earth warriors in an outdoor classroom, being an eco school is everything it's cracked up to be. Hello!
Hello!
How long has St. Paul's been a certified eco school, if that's the right term?
Yes, just over 10 years.
Wow, well that's way longer than I thought. How long have you been there?
Let's see, I came back here in 2006, so this is my 12th year back.
Okay, so you were the one who kind of brought it out to be an eco school.
Other teachers had done it in the past, but then I helped out, and then 3 years ago I took over our school's
portfolio. Okay, cool. So what does it mean to be an eco school?
There are different categories that we have to become a leader in and submit evidence of the activities to the Ontario Eco Schools website, and they call it the certification process. There's leadership, there is waste management, schoolyard greening, and a few other ones. I would just have to go onto the website to double check that. Yeah, so any school who is interested can register. And most schools are already doing something green. They are recycling, maybe they're monitoring their garbage, or they're planting trees, or they might even have an outdoor classroom.
It's only been in recent years that outdoor classrooms have become a thing, right? Or how long have those been around?
Wow. We built ours in 2013. And as we did research in order to design it, to have it safe but still a natural environment, great big rocks that the kids can climb on and logs that they can run along, we did do research with other schools. So it is becoming more and more popular. There's a lot of different websites that, can encourage you or give you tips on how to build your outdoor space.
That's cool. And what's the point of an outdoor classroom?
Because children learn so much better, just out in the environment. And really, I don't want to sound too old here, but kids don't get enough free time outdoor play nowadays. It's highly structured. They're going to hockey or music lessons or dance lessons or baseball. From A to B, they're always traveling in a car. They don't necessarily, as a family, all jump on their bikes to go to the baseball game or soccer game. So an outdoor classroom just gives kids a chance to look for bugs or, look at plant a pollinator garden, observe the pollinator garden. Our outdoor classroom has raised vegetable gardens that the kids plant and weed and water and maintain. And then they get to eat the veggies.
Yeah,
so just to experience nature, to smell it, to hear it, and get dirty. Kids like getting dirty.
Yeah. Do you have specific lesson plans that you lead when you're in the outdoor classroom, or do you actually just take them out and lead a math lesson or something when you're out there?
Exactly. So any teacher, our particular classroom, teachers sign up at the beginning of the day or the beginning of the week and say, I would like it at this time. And you can do your science lesson out there. It doesn't even have to be about nature. It doesn't have to be a particular lesson, dealing specifically with insects or birds or whatever. It could you're just in this outdoor space. A lot of people do their art lessons out there.
Yeah.
Sketching, maybe using, I always take my class out and we do art pieces, but we can only use items from nature.
Right.
Because I don't want them breaking branches off of trees and things like that, I just bring in bark from home, just from the wood pile, and I bring in pine cones and seashells, whatever I have at home, and then they can just use these nature materials to create their own art piece, and then I take a picture of it for them.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Ephemeral. That's so artistic. Okay, so where did you first hear about eco schools and the program and how to get your school involved?
2002 was when eco schools kind of caught on. It started in Toronto and then it became all of Ontario. And I think it's even a little bit beyond Ontario now. So somehow they contacted our school, or somehow one of our teachers maybe had just heard about it and was interested in it. Maybe because we are a rural school, so we are kind of closer to nature maybe than somewhere maybe in downtown Toronto, I don't know. But yes, the process just started, so I was kind of on the outside looking in. I wasn't running the program, but now I'm running it.
That's good. And what were some of the things, you said that you guys already had some things in place, and most schools do. Most schools recycle or perhaps even compost. But what did you guys do that was new when you first started?
Really took over recycling in a big way. I'm not sure how much was going on with containers. Paper recycling was always happening. And really the education process, so teaching the children, like having a whole school assembly and having the recycling team show how many clear bags of recycling was gathered in 1 week from our school. You know, it's about 5 or 6 large bags. And just so the visual, and then to have a couple of lunches, empty lunches just on a table, and having volunteers from the audience come up, you know, where would you put this apple core? Where would you put this juice box or something like that? Where would the straw go from the juice box? Because it's different. So, so we would just educate the kids.
Well, that's so good. Mm-hmm. I like the activities where kids get to see something that's very real. This is the leftovers of my lunch, and learn how to put it in different boxes, and even to learn that in order to put your yogurt cup in the recycling, it has to be washed clean first.
Yes.
That's something that everybody struggles with, to remember that in order to put it in the recycling bin, it has to be clean.
Yes, because the recycling center just sorts all our recycling. It doesn't clean it.
Yeah.
And then if it's contaminated, then it gets rejected.
Yeah.
At the receiving end, and it just ends up in landfill anyway. Because you think of a public park or something where people get to just dump their things in, the person that comes around and collects the recycling bag does not check to see that the straws have been taken out or that a food wrapper didn't get in there.
Those disposal stations in public parks are almost useless. And
because if they're not monitored.
Yeah.
I love the food court at the mall in Peterborough. There's little footprints painted on the floor, and it tells you where to go to take your tray. And it is the most amazing sorting center. So they put all the food in one container and all the cardboard in another, and everything gets sorted by a team that is just standing there with rubber gloves waiting for your garbage.
Oh my goodness, I want to work there.
Isn't that amazing? So you never put your garbage in a garbage can or your recycling in a recycling bin. They do it all for you, and they do it properly.
And not to make people lazy, but this is the way to really ensure that it's not going to go to landfill, because
be rejected.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's something that I think needs to be talked about more in recycling lessons, is that it really does need to be clean. Nobody's washing it for you. So you had to do something like a lighting audit once. What was that all about?
Yes, so there are different aspects of your energy use. I think that was one of the other aspects of the 5 that I had just forgotten with our portfolio. So it's our energy consumption. So yes, with a team of children, we called them energy detectives. We went around the school with our clipboards, and all the forms and everything are on the Eco School's website, so I don't have to create any of that. And they would go around and they would count all the light bulbs. The custodian told us what wattage they use, and then we'd have to calculate our wattage usage for our school per day. And then there is a formula to find out what greenhouse emissions that is, and then how many trees your school would have to plant to offset your carbon footprint.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I obviously had to help with the calculator formula because it was a little bit tricky for some of the students, but no, we calculated all that out and submitted our results. But then we announced the results and we went around and put little posters by each light switch, reminding classes to turn out the lights when they left a room.
Right.
Our school actually has been refurbished in the past 5 years, and all our light switches automatically turn off after 5 minutes. So that's made us a little bit lazy, because if you don't turn off the lights, they will go out in 5 minutes. But there's 5 minutes of energy use in an empty classroom.
I was going to say,
so we still try to encourage everyone to turn out their lights. And if you don't turn out the lights, then you kind of get, a mark against you. If you do turn out the lights and turn off your smart board and turn off the monitors on your computers, then you get a point or whatever, and it's monitored a couple of times a month.
That's amazing. So do you have somebody who's just always on the lookout for that, walking around with a clipboard, or how do you keep track of when people forget?
So the team and I, we would go around twice a month. It was never on a set day. Yeah. Because we wanted to catch people just kind of in their normal daily routine. We didn't want them to think, oh my gosh, it's the first Monday, we better make sure the lights are out. It's just, it would be a random check on their energy consumption.
And that's nice because the kids are so involved. Was it hard to get kids involved in that, or did you have a lot of volunteers who wanted to do all this?
Oh, no, they love it. Yeah, so the Eco Club, we have the recycling team, we have the eco detectives, we have the garbage monitors. Like, some of us even go in, we have to do a trash audit. So we have to save someone's trash for the whole day, let's say the grade 8 class. Then the next day we would spread it all out on newspaper, and we would sort their trash, and we would monitor how much was recyclable, how much was reusable, how much was compost, and how much was actually trash. And then we would record those results and report it back to them, and then give them tips on how to improve.
Well, that's good.
Or, well, actually, as their own class, they were encouraged to come up with their own tips and share it.
Right.
Yeah. And the kids, they love being on the announcements. They love reporting the results. Or, Wednesdays are our recycling day, so they get on the announcements first thing in the morning, and they remind everyone to clean their bin, because the cleanest bin gets 5 points every week from your division, and then when those points accumulate, you get a popcorn party or extra recess or something like that.
Nice. Yeah, good little incentives for kids. How challenging is it to get other teachers involved? Are you the main teacher because you're the only one who wants to do it, or are you easily getting other staff and janitors and people on board?
So there is another teacher that is quite willing to, on Wednesdays, take half the team and do the recycling. Our school is an L shape, so she does one hallway and I do the other. Otherwise, in a 40-minute lunch recess, we could not get it all done. And we try to get it done on a Wednesday because Thursday the recycling truck comes.
Right.
So we have no place to store our bags of clean recyclables, so they have to go out to the curb Wednesday afternoon, and then they're picked up right away. So I have a teacher that helps me with the recycling team. Another teacher is very interested in the gardening, and so she helps out that way. If I am needing some strong muscles to help move soil for the garden or compost, then the grade 7 and 8s are always willing to come for that. So it would be great if more were on board. I think they're really getting on board within their own classroom and really encouraging proper recycling. Whereas when I took over a few years ago, every bin every week was, I have to say, disgusting.
Aww.
So now we might only have 2 classrooms that are in the disgusting category, and all the rest are almost totally clean.
That's awesome. Even the younger grades.
Yes. And we usually have support for the kindergartens because that's kind of hard for them.
Yeah, well, good. So you mentioned your garden a couple of times. Tell me about the garden at your school and how long you've been running that.
Yeah, so the raised beds were built when the outdoor classroom was built in 2013, and it might not have been finished till 2014. It might have taken a year. And yeah, so we got together, just a few teachers, to decide what we want to plant and involve, and then created a gardening club, asked the children what kind of vegetables they were interested in. Some of the things we can plant in the fall, like garlic. We've planted ever-bearing strawberries, and then in the spring, we meet again and we look at, because you have to rotate your plants, you can't always plant tomatoes in the exact same spot. We're always looking for different types of vegetables that will not take the same nutrients from the soil.
Interesting.
And even having, guest speakers to come in to teach them about composting. Our whole school composts. So, what does that mean? How does it break down? How is it good for the soil? Yeah, so the kids love it. And then we have to get volunteers over the summer to maintain the gardens, water them and weed them. And then in the fall, different classes do different things. Some classes will harvest the potatoes and cook them up, have potatoes with their lunch, and the zucchini. Other classes will bake the zucchini. I donate a lot of the vegetables to our breakfast program.
Right, yeah. And they get to actually see how it's used because your school has a kitchen that kids have access to with supervision?
Yes.
So in your breakfast club, they would get to use the different things that you've grown.
Yeah, and our breakfast club is pretty awesome. Like, might even have a fresh pan of lasagna coming out of the oven.
For
you
breakfast.
get lasagna and garlic bread for breakfast. Like,
That's
it's
pretty
just
awesome.
Whatever is on sale that week at the grocery store or whatever gets donated, then yeah. And we used to have mystery muffins with a different baker, and she would hide vegetables, cottage cheese, everything in those muffin batter, and the kids would have to guess what was in the muffin batter.
That's fun.
Is that zucchini? Is it broccoli? What is it?
See, I was picturing the whole floret in there, intact, not pureed. Does Norwood, the city that you guys are in, offer compost for your school, or do you have municipal compost? No.
No, there is no weekly green bin pickup. In the fall and spring, you can put out leaf bags or branches all bundled up, and a special collection will come and get that. But it's not a weekly system.
So your school, what do you do?
Yeah, so we have 2 composters on the go right now. Because we generate so much compost, it doesn't break down as quickly as we'd like. So actually, my husband and I are designing a new composter, a guest speaker that had come in last year. We have taken pictures and measurements of her composter that it has a wood frame, but then it is chicken wire, so the air can actually get at it. Ours are the plastic black bins, but the air doesn't circulate.
Okay.
And so the food and peelings don't break down as well as they should.
Right. And do you have to turn your compost? Is that part of the activities with the kids, or?
We haven't, because the bins are fairly narrow, and you couldn't really get a pitchfork down there. I have seen for sale an auger that, would really excite me to have a compost auger, but there is no money for this program, so it's just whatever you can get donated, or our parent council will support if we need to buy soil or compost. They will support that. We just put in this year a medicine wheel garden to honor our First Nations, and it's beautiful, and we applied for a grant to do that, and it is absolutely beautiful.
So you kind of touched on this, but is there any sort of government funding offered at all for you guys to make these things happen, or is it all your volunteer time?
Now, the Eco Schools website has quite a few grants that are available and different programs. So you would have to be very organized, because some have a deadline. And let's say it is a fall grant, then you would have to apply by September 30th. And September is always a busy time of the year, so you would have to really be organized. And it's usually for specific projects, like let's say you're going to be growing a garden that improves the nutrition of the children. Then there is a certain grant you can apply for.
Right.
There's so many listed on the website that I wouldn't be able to list them all. But yeah, so there are grants available. But then you might do all the work to apply for that grant, and maybe 20, 30 other schools have applied too, and you don't get it.
Oh, right.
So there's no guaranteed income.
Right.
So it's kind of hit and miss. You can apply, but you might not get it.
So how's your composter working? Are you guys building that out of your own pocket, or?
We will apply to have our parent council cover any material costs, but we are hoping to get the lumber out of scrap skids.
Yes.
Those wooden pallets that sometimes are put out for free because they're broken.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah, so then it would be the cost of, I don't know, your staple gun and your chicken wire, whatever else.
Right. And there'll be hinges so the lid can be raised and lowered. Yeah.
Yeah. So my brother-in-law has the 3 compost bin system. So he's got 3 different things made out of skids, big boxes. But they're only 3 walls, basically, and then the front of each one is open, and just kind of rotate everything. So it's a very involved process, but he says that his compost or his food waste all breaks down so much faster because it has access to air and heat and water, and not too much water because they cover it a little bit, and he takes very good care of his compost.
Yeah, so we're hoping that we do have space to do the 3-bin method. We used to have an amazing 3-bin years ago when I used to teach here back in, I don't know, the 90s. The high school shop class actually made it for us. And when they tore down all our portables and built the school addition, for whatever reason, that 3-container composter got taken away or demolished or something. So
sad.
Yeah, we've just been using the black plastic ones, which aren't the best.
Right.
So yeah, that's our dream, is to have a composter like that. Because at this rate, we cannot use our finished compost to put back into the garden. All we're doing is our composters are diverting the food waste from the garbage.
Yes.
So we want to take it, to the next level, that we can actually use our compost and maybe even, sell it by the pail if we have too much.
I was going to say, yeah, you could use that as a fundraiser if you do get to the point where you're able to produce compost and have it break down enough that it's usable in your garden. You don't have a big enough garden for that, so you could sell it back to the community.
Exactly.
Would love to see the other schools in Norwood kind of follow your lead, or do you know if they are doing that?
The local health unit in Peterborough has amazing programs, and so when I hear about a workshop, I go to it. And there was one on building gardens at your school. And so I went, and lo and behold, the other elementary school from Norwood was there, representatives, and our local daycare.
Oh, great.
And so they are at the very beginning stages of gardening. And so we were there just as observers or as people learning about this, but they had presenters from other schools in Peterborough that have been doing this for even longer than St. Paul's.
That's awesome.
And they had slideshows, or they had pictures on poster board, and they explained the process and who they get involved, and that they have a great parent community that will come with wheelbarrows and shovels and move soil. And so yeah, the other schools in Norwood are just getting on board.
That's great.
And I think the other thing that the health unit did, it started community garden. Any spot that had a space that they were willing to have a raised bed built could just submit their name. So we have a couple of churches with raised beds. We have the seniors home has raised vegetable beds, and people can register and say, yes, I would like a raised bed as a family, and everything is provided for them to grow their own garden.
What? That's awesome.
Gardening tools would be in a little locked up shed. There would be water access nearby, and then this family can harvest their vegetables.
Yeah.
And then there's always someone either on site or a phone call away if you're stumped. If you have a problem, maybe a bug on your tomatoes and you don't know how to get rid of it, you just need to call and they will give you advice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the health unit coordinates it, and it is from their nutrition programs. If I wrote one-page essay on our school garden, then we qualified to receive seeds. So, of course,
cool.
I did that.
Yeah.
And that was just advertised in their monthly magazine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever taken your kids on a field trip to a recycling plant or something?
Yes, I did, and it was great because they had to put all the safety glasses on, and they all had to wear a hard hat, and they all had to walk behind the yellow line because, there's little forklifts, driving around with bales of crushed pop cans and...
Right.
So that's a fabulous trip for the kids. We've also toured in Peterborough their compost site where all the green waste goes and how it breaks down into compost on a huge scale.
Right.
And the Peterborough Green Up runs a place called the Ecology Park. So then you can just pull in there with your car and you can buy wood chips and compost that the city has made.
Right.
You can buy all native species plants, but they also do great class trips that match the curriculum.
Right.
And once again, the kids are, right out in nature. They get to be bugs. They get to search for bugs. They get to plant things. They get to play tag games and listen to animals in the trees. And
so good.
Yeah, and the people there just live and breathe what they do, the environment. And so they just share their enthusiasm with the kids and get them all excited.
That's so good. So in your eco school waste reduction practices, was it pretty soon after that you guys started composting that you saw a significant decrease in your trash?
Oh, yes. And I don't have the facts and figures right in front of me, but the custodian at that time saw a dramatic decrease in the amount of garbage that he was putting out at the curb each week. And he said that his garbage was cut in half.
Wow.
With our recycling program and the composting.
Yeah.
His actual garbage was in half.
Because there's not too much that's left that is garbage coming out of a school. I mean, I'm sure there's always little tiny bits, like your straw from your juice box and whatever else, but for the most part.
Yeah, lunch wrappers are a big pain. Granola bars, the peel-off part of your yogurt or your pudding.
Yeah.
So we always encourage parents, and we put out in our newsletter, please bring a reusable water bottle. Water is the best way to quench your child's thirst during the day. If you want them to bring a little bit of milk or juice in their lunch, just bring it in a reusable container. Some kids do. We have run contests in other years, every year where, you get a ballot for every reusable item in your lunch, including your lunch pail. And, so if a child is getting 8 tickets to enter in the draw, and the child beside them, has nothing reusable, everything is in a package and it's in a plastic bag that they're just going to throw out, then, by the end of the week, that child has, at least 2 or 3 things that are in a reusable container so they can get ballots to enter the draw. And, the prizes are always different every year, but there's usually something like, a reusable lunch pail that our sewing club one year collected all the Kool-Aid jammers. They were really popular, washed them out, looked for a pattern online, and sewed reusable lunch pails.
Right, I remember that.
So then I still have a few of those left, so they were our prizes last year for the draw.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So we're always doing something to acknowledge that some people are really making an effort to be waste-free, and then, encouraging the other ones to say, oh, okay, well, that's easy to be waste-free. I can put my sandwich in a plastic container instead of a Ziploc baggie, and then I can just wash the container.
Yeah. And making it easy for people is something that we've seen again and again. Just the people that I've talked to on this podcast have been always saying that the most practical way to get people to change or to help people to change is to make it the easiest option.
Yes.
Or I just showed you recently, there was that juice box shaped drink bottle.
Yes.
That instead of buying juice boxes, it's all hard plastic, BPA free or whatever, and can seal closed. So then you would just reuse that every day by filling it up with your juice from concentrate or whatever you're doing. And I thought that was a nice idea too.
And when you think about it, to either buy a large jug of juice or I know when our kids were young, it was just Kool-Aid. To mix up Kool-Aid yourself, really the only garbage you created was your little tiny pouch of the unsweetened Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Instead of, even contributing to the recycling is still not good because it takes energy.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can, that's one of the big things about, yes, we want to reduce the amount of garbage that we produce, but also trying to reduce the amount of recyclable packaging that we're using, because that still takes energy to make. And if it could be skipped, then that's saving the world that amount of resource or cost that goes into producing it. At Bulk
And like
Barn.
you said the other day,
yeah.
Our plastic can be recycled into something else, but you can never get rid of it.
Yes.
Plastic will always be there.
Plastic is always,
it doesn't decompose, it's always going to be there.
That's a big shame about plastic, is that, yes, you can recycle it, but only to a certain extent, and then it becomes useless and it becomes garbage.
And some things I've even done with my own children, because I teach primary, is we tape either a little paper bag, and that is their garbage can, and they can only use it to get rid of their garbage.
Wow.
And they very quickly see in a day how much garbage they create.
That's a really good activity. I've never heard of that.
So they like walking around, or, just seeing in the classroom with all these cups and seeing who's created this much garbage, because, every piece of saran wrap and granola bar wrapper has to go in there.
Right. You're making the kids very conscious, but how is it in the staff room?
They're pretty good at recycling, but I don't know how good our staff are at reducing the amount of recycling that they create. When we're having guests into our school, let's say we're getting 30 judges in to judge our science fair, I always make sure that it is just jugs of tap water and glasses that are available. I make a pot of coffee and a pot of tea and give them real coffee mugs instead of doing a Keurig type or just getting Tim Hortons. You can just buy the dispenser of coffee. So I really try to make sure that it says waste-free as possible. We still use disposable napkins, but we do feed a turkey dinner at Christmas to our whole school. So 260 children, and that is on paper plates, unfortunately. But then I just collect them all in clear garbage bags, and because I heat with wood instead of putting them in the garbage, we just burn the paper plates.
Right, yeah.
And it doesn't matter that they're all soiled and covered in gravy and that type of thing, because
they're just going into your And if there was municipal composting available, they often accept paper plates and paper napkins, even though if you can do real plates, then that is obviously better. But
yeah, so we try to do it if it's just, 30 or less. Like even when we're having a staff dinner, maybe at report card time, the parent council has made us a dinner, then we all use glass plates and cutlery. But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to convince people.
Anything else about being an eco school that has been challenging other than getting people involved? Like, what else is hard about it?
The Eco Schools website is really good that when you submit your portfolio, you can be awarded bronze, silver, or gold level for your school. For your everything that you do gets a point, 5 points, 2 points, whatever. You have to submit lesson plans, photographs of the child's work that, completed that lesson. So it is quite involved. The deadline for it is the end of April, but you can't just start in March. Like you have to start in September and be monitoring your electricity, monitoring your garbage, doing your announcements. Everything has to be submitted with your portfolio. So because it is a whole year, it's fairly intensive, and there is no release time for the teacher to coordinate it. Like when I go out to the garden, it's just on my own time at lunch hour.
Right.
They always ask for feedback at the end of the year. So one of my big feedback points was that it is labor intensive and that you don't get release release time, you don't even get any financial support to do this. So what they implemented just recently was you could have, I think it was called a project year. So our school is taken on a project to reduce our recycling. We've done presentations, we've listened to podcasts from CBC, we've ordered a book called The Trash Revolution. We had the grade 8s present to us this book. So last year, we did not have to submit with our portfolio any of our regular projects. All we had to do was to present a 2-minute video of what our new project is that we are taking on.
Okay.
So because we're always gardening, we are always composting, we're always turning off our lights, to have to tally that every year is so labor intensive when we're already going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So this was good. This coming year, 2018-2019 school year, is the year that we will be visited by the Eco Schools representatives to see how our project turned out. So this year we will be focusing most of our efforts on reducing the amount of recycling we produce by focusing on the reuse part of the 3 R's. Yeah, it's good that Eco Schools has kind of listened to the teachers' feedback, that it's great that we're doing all these things, but having to keep track and tallies and report on it is a lot of time.
I think that it would be nice to see this Eco School format be opened up to public institutions such as museums, art galleries, but also rec centers or the YMCA.
Oh yeah, a library or something.
Library, yeah, exactly. Because while you don't have kids eating lunch at that location every single day, you still are producing heaps and heaps of garbage, especially so at the museum that I work at. We have programs that we lead for the kids all the time, all summer and school year long. And we use a lot of markers. So Crayola Markers is offering a marker recycling program where you can send back all of your dried up markers and they either replace the ink core or they just recycle them properly and reuse that materials. I'm not sure how involved it is or if it's just a matter of sending it to them so they can send it to landfill. I don't know what it is, but I have contacted them and they don't offer it to anybody but schools. So I wouldn't be able to gather up all the markers from the PAMA and send them in. I'd have to partner with a school that's in the area and send them in with them. So it would be neat to see it happen where public buildings like all of the ones we've listed could be part of these programs and use these formats.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
very good.
Thanks so much, Mom. Thanks again for listening, everyone. If you'd like to get involved with the Eco School program, head over to ontarioecoschools.org to learn more. If you'd like to hear more of these podcasts, hit the subscribe button below and take a listen to past episodes to get started on your adventures in zero waste. And if you're heading back to school this week, best of luck making it as earth-friendly and low-waste as possible. Bye!